I had one player who was losing all night and he was completely wasted because alcohol and losing money do not go together. And he was so mad at me that he picked up an ashtray full of ashes and threw it at me. And it went past me and it hit my floor supervisor, who was 6'4", big old muscles, a stern face. And he turned around and he's like, "Who threw that ashtray?" All the other players on the table pointed to him like he's the one that did it.
All right, Heather Ferris, welcome to Tales from the Shift. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'll give you the lowdown, the gist of it. A Las Vegas dealer is someone who goes to the casino and they typically deal blackjack, roulette, pie gow poker, craps, that type of a thing. This falls under the table games department of the casino. And then the casino also has a poker department where you have poker dealers, and they're two separate departments. But the gist of the job itself is to deal the game while interacting with the players. So this is one of the very few jobs in the world where you get paid to talk to interesting people all around the world about everything. It is so much fun and so interesting, and you see the craziest things. It's a really great job to have.
It sounds really, really cool. And I'm sure we'll get down into some of those conversations and such that you've had. I already have a question. So you said there's multiple games you would be certified on. I guess would be the trained on would be the right words. Could you end up doing more than one game in a particular shift or and bounce around, or is it you're scheduled to do? Tell us how that works.
So dealers don't get certified for games. And also, too, it depends on the location. So every casino is different. In Las Vegas, they don't get certified for games. However, if you go to Kentucky or Maryland or another state or even somewhere else around the world, they may have certifications for games because every casino is different. There are a lot of different games. You can learn any game really you want to start working as a casino dealer. Typically, it's either blackjack or craps. Blackjack is the easiest game to learn, while craps is the hardest game to learn. Craps typically takes about 2 years from being on the table 8 hours a day, 5 days a week before you're just decent. Not even good, just decent. So when I
Why why
tell
is why would you say that is?
it's so complicated and there's so much math and there's so much to it. When you start off as a dealer, you're learning the very basics. And then to throw yourself on craps on top of that, it is a lot harder for newbie dealers to learn craps than it would be for them to learn blackjack. If you learn blackjack first, you know how to cut the checks, you know about keys. Keys are ways to do math that are quicker and easier to do when you're on the table. There are a lot of things that you learn when you learn blackjack, for example. And then if you go on craps, it's a lot easier. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I was just curious about. So let's say you're doing. Let's say you know blackjack and craps, and you have a shift. Could you? So for an entire shift, would you be just on craps, or could the manager may say, "Hey, we want you over"? How would that normally play out?
It depends on the shift that you're on. So if you're day shift or graveyard shift, you will typically stay on the casino game that you were assigned for that night. If you are a relief dealer, you may have different games that you deal during the night. The relief dealer is someone who goes to each table for 20 minutes and gives that dealer a break. So you have a string, and a string is, let's say, 3 games in the string, and they could be going to blackjack and then pie gow poker and then roulette, and then they go on break. So a relief dealer may have multiple games. If you are on swing shift, we are closing down games at the end of the night, and that's when they'll usually close your game down or take you off a game, and then you have to go to roulette, or then you go to pie gow poker, or then you go to baccarat or a carnival game. So it really just depends on the situation and also the shift that you're on.
Okay. And by the time you stopped doing this, how many, I mean, did you know, I guess, did you know all of them, these games in a particular casino?
So the more games you know as a casino dealer, the more valuable you are to the casino. You have casino dealers who only know blackjack, but they don't get very far in their career. If you know all of the games, especially craps, then you are considered to be more valuable, and you would be the dealer who would get that $100,000 job at the Bellagio or Caesar's Palace because you are, again, more valuable to the casino.
So you're saying that there are certain casinos that their dealers are more educated and more trained and more well paid.
Yes. Exactly. So the well-paying, high-tier casinos will hire dealers who know more games. The low-tier casinos that don't get paid very much money are like the break-in houses. A house is also a casino. Break-in would just be a casino that hires a dealer with no experience. And they would be the ones where the dealers only know blackjack, or they know blackjack and three-card poker, and that's it.
Okay. All right. And then for you personally, how did you get involved in this world?
It paid more than being a secretary. I was
I
sick of
imagine.
doing the, minimum wage jobs, and my boyfriend, who ended up being my husband, suggested that I learn how to deal blackjack, and I'm like, "No, I want a real job. What are you talking about?" And he came up to me and he's like, "Well, you love video games, you love board games, you would just be doing more games. It's just more." So that got me interested in it, whereas before I wasn't. And I think the reason why I wasn't is because I was born and raised in Las Vegas. So it was so normal, and there were so many people I knew who did it. It wasn't really uncommon. And when I got into it, I really loved it, and I loved doing it, and I learned as much as I could about it.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. How about a joke? I was wondering if you could tell us a joke that a dealer might tell, possibly to another dealer.
Usually, if you're in the break room and you hear dealers telling jokes, it's typically about their players. And the bad players are normally referred to as fleas, and the good players are Georges. So if you have someone on the table on a break room telling about someone, "Oh, I had this flea on my table and he wouldn't tip me and he kept splitting tens and this dude was ridiculous." So we have names for players depending on how they act.
Okay. Is there any other names besides Flea and George?
Yes, stiff would be one, and someone who stiffs you, who doesn't tip
Yeah.
you. You can find some creative names. I don't know if I really should say some of them in a
It's all
public
right. It's
forum.
all right. I have another question for you later about
Okay.
kind of down that path. So we'll put that on the to the side for now. How about I guess you have a little bit of a family history with Vegas. Do you want to tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that?
So, like I said, I was born and raised in Las Vegas. My grandmother was a showgirl back in the 60s, that type of a thing, one of the traditional showgirls. And my grandfather worked at the Stardust with Lefty Rosenthal. My uncle is Uncle Al Sachs. So he's the one that was the clean man for the Stardust when the mob was, there. If you go to, there's two mob museums in Las Vegas. One of them has all of my uncle's stuff in it, where it displays that and everything. My aunt Janice is the one that, gave him that stuff and everything because he passed away years ago. But that's pretty much it. So
Very cool. Okay. So let's say somebody's watching this right now. They say, I want to be a dealer. I want to be a casino dealer. And they're just in whatever, regular old job. How would they go about doing it? What's the best way, the quickest way they could end up getting in this career?
again, it depends on your location. So a Las Vegas casino dealer would get into the industry in a different way than, let's say, someone who lives in Connecticut or Tennessee or something like that.
Sure. Let's say
If
let's say
you
Vegas.
Okay, Vegas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. Let's say Vegas.
the normal way that people would do it is there are several different dealer schools around the city. They would pay thousands of dollars to go to these schools. which that's a whole different rant upon itself. And the school would normally get them a audition, but of course the schools aren't perfect. So normally the people who would get the audition would be like the favorites, you know. You can also get an audition by learning by yourself at home and then gain an audition yourself. Or if you have a friend who is already a casino dealer, they might help you through the process of learning how to deal and then getting into the audition. The audition would be you would put in your application in the website, and then you would go to the casino wearing your salt and peppers, which is your black and whites, black pants, white shirt, button down. And you would ask them for a job or for an audition. They would put you on the table, a live table, and they would say, deal the game. You would deal the game if you did it well, if you were friendly and personable and you interacted with the guest while you dealt a clean game, then you would be hired.
Okay. So I want to back up for just a sec. So you said, first of all, you go through in the dealer schools. We'll talk about them more in a minute. The third thing you said was if you know somebody. Okay. That's like a lot of careers. But the middle one, can you expand a little bit more on that? You said something about being at home and getting an audition. Tell us more about that.
Anyone could be a casino dealer. The thing that casinos hire for is your personality. They don't hire you to deal because anyone can be taught how to deal games. So what we did with my company was we put out the information people needed where they could practice at home and learn how to deal at home and then go and do the audition themselves. So we have YouTube videos on how to shuffle, how to cut checks. We give them the knowledge that they need. And if you have a deck of cards at home and you buy some casino chips that you could practice with, you literally can practice at home and then go and get a job at a break-in house. Since a lot of break-in houses hire new dealers who never had experience anyway, a lot of times they're teaching people how to deal on the job. And they don't normally like hiring people who have been taught by dealing schools because they end up forming bad habits at these dealing schools. It's normally students teaching students, which leads to bad habits. It's harder to break someone of a bad habit than it is just to teach them, you know, how
Right.
to do it correctly from the beginning.
It sounds like you're a little negative about the dealer schools. Tell us a little more about dealer schools and the problems with them. I mean, already obviously students teaching students sounds kind of whacked. The teachers are not teaching the students. What's going on with that?
I am negative about the dealing schools. This is one of the reason why I started my free dealing trade school was because I wanted to give people this education for free. The dealing schools are very expensive. Can typically if you learn one game, it's like $800. If you learn multiple games, it could be in the thousands. And they always tell you to learn multiple games because it's more money. There are no teachers sitting there teaching you how to deal. They may come over and show you, okay, here's how you shuffle, and then they walk away. And you don't get very much instruction about that. There's no one-on-one instruction. There's no classes like you would imagine with like a school or a college or that type of a thing.
Yeah.
Typically, people just go into these places, the tables are there, you are able to practice on your own, and then it ends up being students teaching students, which the students don't know what they're doing, so they're teaching bad habits to other students. A lot of dealing schools only get auditions for their favorites. When the dealing school that I went to, there was a woman there who was there for 9 months learning how to deal blackjack. There is nothing in this world that should keep someone from doing a job as a blackjack dealer and learning blackjack in the span of 9 months. Like 9 months is ridiculous. You should learn this in like a month or two at the very most. And it was because no one was really teaching her. It's it's not a great way to spend your money or your time. And that's again one of the reasons why I started Vegas Aces because I was so mad at the dealing school that I went to. that I was like, I'm just going to teach people for free. I'll be that friend that teaches you how to deal, and then I'll help you get a job for free because this is completely ridiculous.
So all right, I live near Chicago, so they got a few casinos. In fact, they're opening up a Hard Rock casino pretty close to where I live. So you're saying if I went and I did your course online, I could maybe get a shot of walking in there and at least doing blackjack to
Yes.
start out.
So Las
I might
Vegas
do. I
is,
think I'm going to do it.
I
I think
hope
I'm going to
so.
do it. I'm not kidding. This
It's a
actually,
great
I am
job.
so. I I mean, I've already, I've thought about maybe doing a barbery, occasionally because I like the idea of just BSing with people and while I do the thing. But this sounds actually probably better. But anyway, go ahead.
It's a really, really great job to get into. You could have a full-time job where you're making $100,000 a year doing it. You could work 1 day a week, still making like $200 or $300 in a day. It is such a fantastic job or career to get into. I highly recommend it for anyone. And the casinos that are not in Las Vegas are a little different. So in Las Vegas, you have over 160 casinos, which warrants having multiple dealing schools in the city. But when you start getting to places outside of Las Vegas where they only have one or two schools, or I'm sorry, one or two casinos that you could get hired at, they don't have dealing schools in the area. So what normally happens is those casinos teach you how to deal the game. And again, they're hiring based on personality. All you need is to be friendly, personable, be willing to talk to people, and then you get hired, and then you do a training course with the casino where they teach you how to deal. Depending on the casino, they have different ways that you can do this, where you take the training course, and if you don't stay in the casino for more than a year, you have to pay them back for the course. But if you stay for more than a year, the course was free, everything was free. It just depends on the casino.
So it sounds like what you're saying is if you're not in Vegas and you want to get a job at a casino, that you said they probably have some sort of training program, which indicates to me they're used to people not having any training walking in the door, which indicates to me that if they walked in the door having used your service to learn how to deal before they probably already have a leg up.
Exactly. And we have had several different students who have done that, and they said that, like, they were the number one in their class, that they advanced a lot faster than the other students, that they got a lot of praise from the teachers because they knew what they were doing, and they had a Las Vegas style of dealing. When Las Vegas is considered the gold standard. So if you have knowledge of how to deal a Las Vegas style of dealing, that's actually a lot better than most dealing styles.
Can you tell us what that means? The Las Vegas dealing style. Does it depend on the game, I guess?
It depends on the techniques. So how you shuffle, how you pitch, how you cut the checks. You know, another example is when you're dealing to the right side of the table, you use your right hand. When you're dealing to the left side of the table, you use your left hand. There's certain things that you could do when you put the cards on the table, you put the edges parallel to the edge of the table so it all looks neater and it's easier
Uniform.
to read by both the cameras and the floor supervisors. A lot of times you'll see sloppy dealers, and the sloppy dealers will have the cards angled to the dealer. And this makes it harder for the cards to be read by the cameras and the floor supervisors. So it's just certain techniques that you use when you're dealing.
All right. I got a lot more questions for you. So, your first dealing job, you got apparently pretty quick. Can you tell us first of all how you got hired? And you don't have to say where it was if you don't want, but tell us how you got hired, and if you can recall what it was like your first day. Well, how did it all go down?
So how I got hired was a bit of a story. It was I was at the dealing school and I was mad at the owner because they weren't teaching me how to deal. I wasn't doing what they wanted to do, so I kept butting heads with the owner and everything. And she got really mad at me and she said, "Okay, fine, you think you're such a hot shit. I got an audition for my three favorite dealers. You can do the audition, and when you fail, you'll see that you don't know everything." So I'm like, awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I go on the audition and I ended up being hired, and one other person ended up being hired, which I was ecstatic because then I didn't have to go back and see her. So
All
I
right.
got the job. And that was when I learned that a lot of dealing schools teach you bad habits because the floor supervisors had to unteach those bad habits and teach me the correct way of dealing. It was nerve-wracking, just like stage fright. You're in front of everybody, you're expected to perform. So there was definitely stage fright when I first started. It went pretty well. I did okay, but the first week that I was there, I got a stalker. And it was an 80-year-old guy that would follow me around and be on every single table I was at for 8 hours and say the nastiest things with the full table. And then he found out, like, what car I drove, and he would be waiting for me at my car at the end of the shift. So I had to have security, like, walk me to the car. So it was an
Okay.
interesting first week.
Okay. Did that happen more after that guy throughout your career? Has there been other stalkers?
Yeah, stalkers is a normal thing, especially for women who work as casino dealers. Yeah,
That's awful.
it's part of it.
So, well, it shouldn't be part of anything, but so I mean, so the security, I would hope, wherever you work is keen to these things and helps.
Yeah. They were really suspicious because the casino thought, like, do you know this person? Are they family? Are they friends? Do you have like a
Was it
relationship
your
with this person?
grandfather?
Well, with the stuff he was saying, he definitely wasn't a grandfather type.
Oh my God.
So they had security like follow me to my car. They had security escort me around, which really helped a lot. And they told the guy to back off, which he eventually did.
So can they hear? So when you're dealing, can they hear what's being said at the table remotely
No,
in a back room? I would assume. No.
no,
Interesting. So they
there's
have
no
to kind of
sound on
go
the
in and out.
cameras.
Oh, okay. And then also when you start, you said, your first start, you were nervous and what have you. Do you shadow anybody or does anybody like how does all that play out?
Yes. So typically you shadow someone. The shadow will stay with you until they feel comfortable for you to be alone on the table. Normally, a shadow will be with you for 1 week until you're ready to go. My shadow was only with me for like, I think it was 1 or 2 nights before I was able to be by myself. But it's a dealer, an experienced dealer who stands right beside you as you're dealing, and they just make sure that you're dealing it correctly and you're not making any mistakes and you know what you're doing.
Is there anything else about your first shift or beginning that we should talk about?
My body hurts so much. The first week that you deal, your body hurts like crazy. And it's not just standing for 8 hours, it's also you're moving your arms constantly for 8 hours. And yes, you
Yeah.
do get breaks, but when your body's not used to that, working, like moving for 8 hours, I didn't realize there were muscles until they were sore. Very, very exhausting, and it just hurts. Also, too, it's exhausting for your brain as well because you're trying to do two things at once. You just learned how to deal, so you're trying to deal correctly, but at the same time, you have to interact with the players. So it's mentally exhausting as well.
Yeah. You made me think, did you ever get any repetitive use type injuries from dealing? Is there anything, does that ever happen to people? Okay, go
Yes.
ahead.
So when I dealt roulette, I was snapping the ball incorrectly. So if you snap the ball, if you fling your wrist like this, or if you put too much strain on your finger when you snap the ball, you could either get carpal tunnel or you can get a cyst. So I got a cyst in the middle finger right here, and I had to have surgery to be taken out. And that's how I learned that there is a correct way and an incorrect way of spinning the ball on roulette.
Okay. And what about work life balance? What kind of hours and shifts are we talking that you would do?
For a casino dealer, the work-life balance is amazing. It is 100 times better than most jobs that you will have. You start at a certain time, you end at a certain time, you don't bring work home with you. When you're first starting, of course, you have to practice at home a lot, but once you know the game, you just go to work and then you leave work. It is really wonderful, especially with the breaks, because you have a 20-minute break every hour. So an 8-hour shift, you're only working 6 hours and you have a 2-hour break. So you have dealers who read books during their breaks. They have like knitting or crocheting projects that they bring in. They go to school and study on their breaks. Like it's just really, really wonderful. And you get paid for those breaks. It's compare that to a floor supervisor who is a salary position, and they have meetings that are, for example, if you work swing shift, you get off at 4 a.m. They might have a meeting at 9 a.m. that you have to attend, which is, yeah, exactly, which is like in the middle of your sleeping cycle. They do double shifts. They stay longer than normal. They don't get paid overtime because they're salary. They have a lot more education that they have to learn and go through on their off time. So they bring a lot of work home with them. And that's why a lot of people were saying a dealer position is a lot better than a floor supervisor position because one, sometimes you get paid more than your floor supervisor or your manager. And two, you work less and you don't have to take your work home with you.
That's interesting. I have a background in air traffic control, and what you just described is very similar to in the way that works, where supervisors, it's almost something not really anybody wants to do. And I'm curious about, so why would someone be a supervisor? It sounds like a loser situation here. Why would they want to do that? And then what are some other career paths? So if you, as you're a dealer, where else might you go other than maybe to a better casino?
Right. The reason why someone would want to be a floor supervisor is because you can get full-time and health benefits immediately. So with a dealer, you have to wait 1 to 2 years before you could be full-time. You could get health insurance, you could get vacation, that type of a thing. But if you're a floor supervisor, because there are so many positions open, because people don't want to do it, you as soon as you become a floor supervisor, you could get full time, you could get health benefits, you could get a vacation, that type of a thing. So that's why someone would want to go into it. Another reason is if they want to be a casino manager. A casino manager makes like $1 million a year, which is awesome. So people want to do that position. They want to go up the ladder and be a casino manager, or they just don't know what they're getting themselves into. And they're like, oh, this seems cool. Everyone says I should advance. Let's do it. And then they get into it. And once you become a floor supervisor, you can't go back to being just a dealer. Because once
Wow,
you have that on your application, you will only get hired as a floor supervisor. You will never go back to being like just a dealer.
we got
Yeah.
you now.
Yep.
We got you. All right. What about pay? So what might a dealer expect to make, and at the beginning, in the middle of the career, the end of the career, bad casino, all the way up to good casino? What do you think?
It depends on the casino. Every casino makes minimum wage, every single one. So the tips are what is paying you. Your minimum wage base pay is paying your taxes, and you live off of your tips. If you work at a casino in downtown, where let's just say, for example, it's El Cortez or the California or the Plaza, you can make anywhere from $20 to $50 per day, with the most money on the weekends where it could be 75 or $100 per day, because every single day is different. Normally they pool the tokes. So all of the tokes are pulled together into one lump sum and then distributed evenly amongst all the dealers for that day. So each day
Is
is
a
different.
toke, is a toke
Tip.
a tip
I'm sorry.
or No, no, it's fine. No, no. I want to hear about the Toke system more. So keep going.
A Tokes means tips. So it used to be a token of gratitude, and then they shortened it to a toke. So it just means tips. And you have the low tier casinos, the medium tier casinos, and the high tier casinos. The low tier casinos are less than $100 a day. And then with probably about $100 on the weekends. The medium tier casinos, it's about 150 per day, with the weekends being about 200 to 250. And the high tier casinos are 200 to $300 per day, with the weekends being about $400 to $500 for the day. So a low tier casino, you're making about 20 to 30,000 a year. Medium tier casino, you're making about 50 to 75,000 a year, and then a high tier casino, you're making 75 to 100,000 a year.
And so the Toke system. So it sounds like you're pooling the Tokes.
Mhm.
Yes. So when someone says, so therefore there's not a problem when someone says you're going to go to the $100 table and you're going to go to the $5 table. You don't care then because whatever goes in just goes into the pool.
Exactly. The high tier, the high limit area pools the tokes with the $5 tables. So both dealers make exactly the same thing.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. What about talk about your coworkers? What is that like? Are we just normal coworker thing? We have any issues? We have a bunch of camaraderie. What would you say it was like?
As with everything in life, it depends. You don't deal with your coworkers as much being a casino dealer because everyone is on their own table and you deal the game. So when you interact with your coworkers, it's usually only during break. And what normally happens is you have friends who say, "Oh, I'm taking second break," or "I'm taking third break." So that way all of the friends can take a break together. And because of this, the relief dealer is probably the most liked person in the entire casino, because everyone is trying to convince the relief dealer to give them a certain break so they could be on a break with their friends. And we'll actually go as far as even bribing the relief dealer, like, "Oh, hey, I got this really awesome candy. You can have the candy if I could have second break." You know? So it's really fun in that regard. You have on the craps tables the dealers working together, and it's really important to have a good team of dealers on the craps table. If you are working with someone on craps that you dislike, that could just make working the game a lot harder during that time. Same with floor supervisors. If you get assigned a shift, or if you get assigned into a pit with a floor supervisor you don't like, that could just ruin your night. If you have a floor supervisor that you really like, who's your friend, that could be a lot of fun. So I would say that your relationship with your floor supervisor impacts your job more than your relationship with other dealers.
I got it.
Right.
All right. So I was surprised to see that you created some casino games
Mhm.
and sold them. So I was surprised that there's even new games at all, that I thought it was all done, but apparently not. So tell us as much as you want to tell us about the games you made. How'd you go about doing all that?
So I am a casino game inventor. It was not what I was expecting would happen in my life, but it did. So I own a business, and the business, like I said, has a website where we give out a free dealing trade school, but all of this work costs money to do. So we had to create a business to pay for the free dealing trade school and to pay for creating the YouTube videos. And our business catered to casino game inventors. So we develop casino games for these casino game inventors, and we help get them into the casino and onto the casino floor. We do consulting, of course, but we create felt layouts for people. We create custom equipment. We create the lollipop signs that are next to the table with the name on it. We do rack cards, also two business cards, dealer instruction manuals. There's a whole list of stuff that we do. And I did that for several years. And then I ended up taking a class at UNLV for how to invent casino games because I want it to be better for my clients.
That was a class?
There's a class, and it's still there. You could still take the class. Anyone could take that class at UNLV. They hold it every year, August to December. And during the class, they teach you how to invent a casino game. And then for the project, you invent your first casino game. And they have mentors from some of the biggest companies in the industry. And these people will look at your game and give you advice for how to make it better. And if they like your game, then they'll buy your game from you. And if they buy your game from you, they would be happy to look at more games that you invent in the future. So that's what happened to me. And they bought my first game, and then I showed them two more, and they really liked it and bought those as well. So I've invented 7 games. I've sold 3 of them. 1 did not sell, and then 3 are currently in development.
Okay. And just to be clear, we're not talking about games that are different slot machines, are we? Because or you say okay, because obviously there's a million of those, the Mickey
Right?
Mouse, whatever. They got them all, right? So you're talking about an actual format
Yes.
of a game. Okay.
Now, the reason why you don't see very many new casino games out there is because a lot of companies will buy new casino games and then shelve them, which means that they have them in their assets for their company, but they don't actually put them out to the public. And then when they go and they get a loan for their business, they use those games as part of their asset list to get a bigger loan. Also, too, if you invent a game and they buy it and they shelve it, if anyone comes up with a game similar to that and puts it out on the casino floor, now they could sue that person saying, well, we had this game in 2015, so you're copying us, type of a thing. You're infringing on our trademark and copyright and patent.
How do you invent a casino game? Like, what's the process? How would you even go about that?
So a lot of people think that it's something that you come up with all at once, where in fact it's steps that you take. The first step that's good to do is you think of the mechanics of the game. A lot of times what that might look like is, well, I wanted to do this like blackjack or do this like mini baccarat, or I want to put the two of them together, or I want to take this one thing from this game and this one thing from this game and put it together. Or some people might just have a straight up new idea, like, I want it to be this theme, and then I'll build the mechanics around it. But usually, how it happens is you do the mechanics first and then you build the theme around it. So for example, someone might be like, I want it to be like blackjack and poker mixed together. So you put the bet down, this is what the player does, this is what the dealer does, this is how it wins. So that's usually the mechanics that you come up with. And then you, again, think of the theme. What's the name of the game? And then after those things have been figured out, you would take that to a mathematician. And you would say to the mathematician, what is the house edge for this game? And they would figure out, what the house edge is. And they would come back and they would be like, oh, it's 15%, and the house edge is how much money the casino makes off the game. Well, 15% is too high. You want it to be between, let's say, 2% and 5% if it's a carnival game. So the mathematician would be like, well, if you change these rules or these things about the game, then we could get it down to 2% to 5%. Fantastic. So you change the rules. Now you have a version 2. And then you take it to casino managers, you take it to conventions, you develop the game, you get it ready, you put it in front of people's eyes. And then the casino manager's like, this is a really great game, but can you change this, this, and this? So you go back to the drawing board and then you make those changes. So now you're at version 3. And then you keep going, version 4, version 5, version 6. You're never going to put the first draft on the casino floor. That's never going to happen. So after you've developed it and you've refined it, then you find a casino that likes the game and they'll be like, great, we'll put this on the casino floor. In Las Vegas, you typically have to do a field trial where you have the game on the casino floor for 60 to 90 days. And the casino watches it 24/7. They do the math, constantly recording the numbers, how much does it drop, what's the hold, that type of a thing. And then after it's been on the floor and done the field trial for 90 days, then it passes, and now it could be on the floor anywhere. After a year, you take that plus the numbers that you got from the field trial, and then you could go to any casino, and they would be more likely to put your game in their casino after it's been in a casino for a year and you have the numbers to back it up. Now, if you want a game like high card flush, three card poker, that type of a thing, what I tell my clients is that's like the Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt of the casino world. Like you might go into acting and think you're going to be an actor, but only 1% becomes Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie. And it's the same thing with casino games. It's already hard enough to get your casino game on the floor. It's even harder to get it to the level of a three card poker or high card flush where it's in every casino. And there are typically like 2,000 casinos in America. So when you do that, one thing that surprises a lot of my clients is you're not selling your game to the casino. You're actually renting your game every month. So once a month, the casino pays you money to rent your game. And if you have it in 100 casinos, that's a pretty good amount of money that you're making, right? But if you go to, let's say, Washington State and you put your game on the casino for the first time and it's only on there for a month and then they take it off, no other casino is going to want your game and then you have to start over. So it really just depends on how you do it and the process of how you get your game on the casino floor that determines the successfulness of the game.
Okay. First of all, are you familiar with Gen Con?
No.
So Gen Con is a huge gaming convention that takes place each year usually in Indianapolis.
Okay.
All kinds of games, board games, whatever, everything that's been invented recently. And so I was curious if you'd ever been there because I wonder if it sounds like the two worlds almost have us maybe could or have collided. I don't know. I mean, it seems like someone who like yourself who's making games for Vegas could be making any type of game.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I think the reason why I haven't heard of Gen Con is because typically when you want to put your game in a convention, you want casino managers to be the ones who are going to that convention and looking at it. So conventions like that would be like G2E. For example, there's also like an Indian gaming convention that have like 400 exhibitors, 500 casino managers going to it. There's different conventions that we go to where casino managers are the majority of the people that go there because those are the eyes we're trying to get it in front of.
Okay. And so in Vegas, what casinos would be more likely to try a new game? Is it
That's a
all of
great
them or is
question.
it stuff off of the strip or what? Tell us.
That's a really great question. So there are only a few select casinos who are more than likely or more than willing to give your game a try. For example, you're not going to go to Caesar's Palace or MGM and get a field trial for a new game. That's just not going to happen. If you go to a station casino, or if you go to Excalibur or New York, New York, or one of the downtown casinos, they would be more likely to give your game a try. And then each one is different. So if you put your game in a local casino, you only have to market it once. And once the people like your game, then they come back and they play your game over and over again, which is really good for the casino game inventor because that gets their numbers up. If you put your game on a strip casino, those tourists are only there for a few days before they leave. So you're constantly having to market to new people all the time. And even if they like your game, they're only going to be there for a short time before they leave. And that's actually going to hurt your numbers. So it's better to have your game in a local casino versus a strip casino.
Very cool. All right. Who might this career be for or not for?
It is a fantastic career for extroverts. If you love talking with people, this is the career for you because After a certain point, you don't even think about dealing anymore. It's so automatic and so mindless that you do it without even thinking about it. So basically, the entire job is you talking to people from all around the world, and that's your
Yeah.
job. So having that extroversion where you ask people questions and you want to listen and you want to get to know them better, it is absolutely a fantastic job for you.
Yeah. So a lot of BSing. So you're just sitting there going, I hope I get a good conversation going today. And so you just get after it. I
Yep.
would imagine, yeah, I would imagine depending on what clients sit down. What do you call them? Clients that
Players.
sit in front of you? Players. So depending on the players that sit down, I guess you could end up with a interesting night or
Yep.
not. Do you have interesting conversations you might want to talk about right now
Every
that you've had?
player is different. So you will have some players who really enjoy the conversation, who wanna talk with you and that type of a thing, but you'll also have players who want a silent dealer, who want someone who doesn't talk and doesn't do anything, and some people, after losing money, are kinda grumpy. So if you're like, "Oh, great, you got a blackjack, good job," and they're like, "Shut up," like, "Don't talk right now." It's like, "Oh, okay, no problem. I could be that dealer."
So
So,
people can be that rude also?
yeah. Oh,
Really?
yes. I had one player who was losing all night, and he was completely wasted because alcohol and losing money do not go together. And he was so mad at me that he picked up an ashtray full of ashes and threw it at me. But he was so drunk that he did this slowly. It wasn't fast. So I was able to sidestep it and it went past me and it hit my floor supervisor who was 6'4", big old muscles, a stern face. And he turned around and he's like, "Who threw that ashtray?" And this guy just shrank in his chair. And all the other players on the table pointed to him like he's the one that did it. And my floor supervisor got so mad at him, and he's like, "How dare you? We are 86ing you. You are not gonna be welcome back in here. How dare you do this?" So, yeah, people get upset.
So that's so 86ing, is that what you call someone is done for at the casino?
Right. So, just as if you were a waitress in a restaurant, when you 86 someone, it means that you kick them out and they're not welcome back
How often does that happen?
pretty often.
Really?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
more than once a week,
I'd say once every other day.
once every other day. And I don't mean for the whole casino. I mean like personally involved with you. Would it be less than that, or are we talking how many times how many players that you've been dealing with have been asked to not come back?
Probably 20 that I've dealt with personally.
Okay. Yeah.
But some of them. So to give you an example, I had one of the MIT people on my table, one of the MIT blackjack players, and he was an older guy because, of course, it's been a long time, and he sat down on my table, and he wasn't even trying to hide it. Like, he was just very blatant about it. And my floor supervisor saw him, recognized him, told me, "Hey, when you're done shuffling, cut the deck in half instead of the normal deck and a half that we do." And he called the police, and it took the police like about 20 to 30 minutes to get there. And when they got there, he didn't say anything. He just got up and put his hands behind his back and was like, "Okay, arrest me." And the reason why he was okay with it, it was because even if you get arrested on the table for this, you get to keep your money. They're not taking your money away. So they took him to the cage, cashed him out, and then took him to prison, you know?
I
So
have so many
that's
questions. What first of all, what's the crime?
he was blacklisted. So the casino's a private property, which means
So
they got him for
trespassing.
trespassing. Right.
Okay. Okay. So he had already been banned
Mhm.
and he came in. Okay. All right, I got it. So okay. And then how so you said the MIT thing. Clearly there's some card counting situation going on here with the MIT situation. So how often does someone get recognized as a card counter in the
Often
casino?
But just because you're a card counter doesn't mean you're automatically gonna get kicked off the table. I had a guy who was a card counter, and he kept losing, kept losing, kept losing, and then he says to me, "Hey, I'm counting the cards. Do you think the casino's gonna care?" And I'm like, "You're down $2,000. No, the casino's very happy for you to continue card counting. Please, card count away." Like,
So, okay, so card counting is not allowed if you
it's
win.
if you win. If you lose, they're very happy to accept you completely.
If you're
But
bad
if
at
you
it.
win, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you card count, a lot of people think it's just like the movies where you go into the casino and when you card count, you win every single hand. That is not the case. Even if you are the best card counter in the world, you still have highs and you still have lows. So there are going to be times where, yeah, you could
It's
do
more of a
everything
statistical increase.
exactly. You could
Okay.
do everything perfect and still lose, like be on a losing streak and lose a lot of money.
Do you think you statistically have a higher chance to win when you go in a casino?
I'm the same as any other person who would be able to card count. Yeah. So, like I said, I was friends with actually one of the best card counters in the world. And even he still had times where he would have a losing streak. And you have to factor that into your bankroll and you have to factor that into your strategy when you're doing this.
Okay, this next question, a little bit of a two-parter. First of all, I'm curious as to what games in a typical casino you have dealt that you have the ability to deal. And then for a dealer, what is something that customers say or do that just annoy the hell out of a dealer?
Definitely.
Go on.
So the games that I've dealt in the past are pretty much all of them. I've dealt all of the core games, blackjack, pai gow poker, mini baccarat, roulette, and also craps. I also dealt at the Sahara as a poker dealer. So,
Okay.
and then what do people say that annoy casino dealers? We would probably be here all day. I've had people walk up to a blackjack table and be like, "Is this blackjack?" And then I've also had people on Mini Baccarat and Pai Gow Poker walk up to the table. "Is this blackjack?" What do you think? One of the other things that really annoys casino dealers is when people blame them for losing. "Why do you want me to lose? How could you do this to me?" No casino dealer wants their player to lose.
You're just there for good conversation.
Exactly. And if the players are winning money, that means they're tipping, and all dealers want you to tip. So every dealer wants you to win. So the fact that you're going and you're saying, you're blaming them for losing, or "Why don't you want me to win?" or that type of a thing, it gets everyone down and it kind of puts everyone in like a bad situation or a bad spot. So nobody wants that. When you have people on craps, for example, there are certain superstitions that you can't do when on the table. So if you're on craps and you're saying seven, no one's going to like you because seven is like a bad luck type of a word to say on the casino floor. So there's so much that people don't realize when they go into a casino that what they say like matters. And that would be a few examples.
Okay. All right. So I don't annoy anybody. I don't want to piss anybody off. So if I go and I sit at blackjack, tell me just basically what are the things I should not do? Just a couple of little things.
If you are on a shoe game, don't touch the cards. If you're on a pitch game where they pitch the cards to you, then yes, of course, you could pick them up. You could do whatever you want. Normal decency, be decent to the other players and the dealer. Don't spit in their face, for example. Yes, I've had that happen. Just be as kind and considerate as possible. The thing with casinos is when people go to a casino, they shed their mask. A casino is one of the few areas in this world where people could go and shed their mask and be someone completely different. They're not around their family, they're not around their friends, they're not around their coworkers. They can act like a horrible human being, and the people in their lives don't know what happened, don't know what they did. So a casino is one of those places, like a strip club is one of those places. There's certain places in the world where they just take off their mask. So we see some really awful behavior from people. One example is we had a high roller on our craps table who was so into gambling. He was winning a lot of money, and this is not just on craps. This was on blackjack. This was on like other casinos. They win a lot of money. They don't want to leave the table to go to the bathroom. So they go to the bathroom when they're on the casino table. I had that happen on craps. I had that happen on blackjack. On the craps table, it was a high roller. He literally pooped his pants and then shook it out of his pant leg. And then the floor supervisor had to stop the game and comp him a free jogging suit so he could go and change because it smelled so horrible. And the janitor was like behind him, like scooping up the poop and everything. And then on the blackjack table, same thing, didn't want to go to the bathroom. So when I finally got to shuffling, I'm like, you should go to the bathroom now that I'm shuffling. And he's like, no, I'm good. And the player looked down and he had this puddle under him because he went to the bathroom while he was playing. That's like people don't act like this in a normal environment, but they feel like it's okay to act like it in a casino.
Happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I didn't know it meant shitting your pants in the that's just disgusting.
It is. It really is.
God. So let's talk about the movie 21.
Okay.
Have people seen it? If you haven't seen it, here comes the spoilers. Okay. What tell us, is it real? Is it totally legit? What tell us about the movie?
Of course, it's not real. I really wish that when casinos produce like casino type movie or when movie studios produce casinos type movies, they would actually get a consultation on what is real and what isn't. But for example, in the movie 21, he was playing with like $10,000 chips, you know? There is no way you're gonna have a player playing $10,000 chips without having the eye in the sky watching them, the floor supervisor, the shift manager, the casino manager. They would all be behind the dealer watching every second, and they would all be counting the cards too. Casino managers know how to count cards. So that way, if they suspect, like, hey, there's a person on this game and he's deviating from basic strategy, we need to count the cards and see if he's, counting. They would have been behind the dealer counting the cards and they'd be like, oh, yeah, he just deviated from basic strategy and there's like a plus 16, count and everything. So that was one thing that I noticed. Another thing I noticed going off of the plus 16 count, they show him on the table for hours. Like they, speed up the background and show him on the table for hours and hours. That's not going to happen. If you're in a team and you're counting cards, you're the person who is betting the high amount of money during that time is only going to stay there while the count is high. So that's typically not ours. You're not going to be there after you shuffle, for example. You're going to get in, strike fast, and get out before anyone realizes what's going on. So one of the things that was true, because I want to say good stuff and bad stuff about the movie, is there is someone who typically is on the table counting. They're usually playing $5 and they're counting the cards. And then when the count gets high, then they do some kind of signal or something or pull on their ear. And then that signals to the high roller to come in and bet. So they did that correctly. And then every team that does this has their own code. So on the movie, she's like, oh, this drink is too sweet, and that's code for, well, when teams do this, they think up their own code and they think up different ways to talk to each other. So I thought that was true. And that was pretty good as well.
Can I
Um,
stop you real quick? So at your tables that you worked, did you ever have a team that was caught or that you thought was a team or anything like that was going on?
I'm sure that I had a team on my table and they weren't caught. Yeah, because you can't work for as long as I did and not have a team on your table, but they did it so well that they weren't caught. The people that I caught were really just horrible at it. like they were just really obvious about it. So I've had people on my table where it was a counterfeit. He tried to give me counterfeit money. That one was really funny. I was on a roulette table. He gives me this counterfeit cash, and it's so obvious. Like, it's cut poorly. It's the wrong paper. I mean, it's so bad. So I give him the chips. I let him play. I put the money aside. I don't dump it into the drop box like we normally do. I just put it aside, let him play, called over the floor supervisor. I'm just like, okay, here's the money. You can obviously see. And he takes the money and goes and calls the cameras, calls security. And then when the player was so sure that security was going to come and get him, he scoops up all of his roulette chips and he tried to walk away. And I'm like, sir, you have to color those up. If you walk away from the table with those, they're going to be worthless. You can't do anything with those. They're completely worthless. So he's like, oh, okay. So he gives me the chips and I color them up, but I do it like at a snail's pace. Like I'm a sloth and I'm going as slow as possible. And he's looking like he had so much anxiety. And so by the time I was done and I gave him the money, the security guards were there and they escorted him away. We've had people who snatched and grabbed where they just went and they like reached into the bank and they snatched like black chips and tried to run away. And then you have security running after them. We've had, card counters, of course. But like I said, most of them are bad. Some of them are good, but they usually draw the attention of the floor supervisor, and then the floor supervisor is the one that takes care of it. That is pretty much it. Everything else is just they're not trying to cheat. So for an example, and we had this guy playing a large bet, and he got a 16, he hit, got a 10, bust. He reaches over, picks up the 10 card, crumples it up, and then eats it and then ask for another card. And I call over my floor supervisor and I'm like, we need another 10 of hearts. And he's like, what do you mean we need another 10 of hearts? And I'm like, the player just ate it. And my floor supervisor was like, I'm really busy. I don't have time for jokes. I have things I got to do. And I'm like, I swear to God, call the cameras. Check it out. He just ate the 10 of hearts. So he calls the cameras, checks, comes back, and he's like, well, you know what? He wanted another card so badly, give him another card. I'm like, okay. So I hit him again and I give him a 5 for 21 and we paid him. And I go on break a while later and I go to the floor supervisor and I'm like, just happened. Like, what was that? And he's like, well, he's been here for 3 days. He's lost 30,000 every single day. So for $90,000, I think we could give him another card.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What is the hardest part about being a dealer that people might not expect?
The negativity when people are losing and they're blaming you. And it's just like being a casino waitress where sometimes people treat you really poorly. Like I said, the guy who threw the ashtray, another guy spit in the face, stalkers, for example. So that's, I would say, is probably the worst part about it.
Yeah. Have you ever dealt to someone who you recognized, either maybe someone famous or anything like that?
But yeah. So we had famous people come in. It was a normal thing. I think it's okay if I talk about this. The TV show NYPD Blue, Dennis Franz sat at my table. It was him, his wife's sister, and her husband. And the sister, her husband, and the wife were all very, very nice people. And Dennis Franz was kind of grumpy. So I was kind of disillusioned because I liked him so much on the show and I was so excited to meet him and have him on my table. And then I was trying to tell stories and be happy and that type of a thing. And he was like, just stop talking. He was so grumpy. And I'm like, well, this isn't exactly how I thought it would go, but okay.
What is the most money that you've seen anybody win at one of your tables, or how much, or the most that you saw anybody lose?
I would say the most I saw someone win or lose, for example, was when I was in the high limit area. I was dealing to a 22-year-old, and he was betting $25,000 per hand. And I was just mind blown because he didn't have any concept of the value of the money that he was playing, you know? So he would double down and it would be 50,000 and he would lose and he'd be like, "Oh, well, I have more. It's not a big deal." You know? And it's like, to be that young and have that much money just blew my mind.
I mean, it would be nice to have that kind of money where you wouldn't have to think about it. But then I would also think, what's the point of even doing the gambling then? What are you getting out of it?
Yeah,
So you double your money. Well, if the money doesn't mean anything, then are you just doing it to say you did it and I came to the casino? That's kind of
it's
weird.
incredible how much rich people gamble. It really is incredible because there's nothing
Really?
else to do with the money. Like,
Yeah.
when you've bought everything and you have everything, you can go gamble at $100,000 a hand and it doesn't mean anything to you.
Is there a way to launder money doing gambling
Yes.
in a casino? So you come in and you buy the chips and then you cash out and like
You
something like
play a
you
hand
tell
or
me.
2 and then you cash out. No, you pretty much said it. So, if you stole money or whatever, or you have to launder it, yep, you would go in, buy a few chips, play a hand, that kind of thing. I don't know if I should say this, but it's pretty public knowledge that Trump needed a loan for one of his casinos. So his father went into the casino, bought millions of dollars worth of casino chips, and then just never, you know, cashed them in or
Used them.
took them to the bank.
So if someone were to say, all right, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna launder my money. Not saying that someone should do this, but when someone gets chips, does the casino get a cut, just like a fee, just to off the top, just so in case someone's wasting their time with just going in and going out for the
No,
chips? So the chips are just one for one on the dollar.
yeah, they go in, they get the chips. Sometimes people, don't cash the chips in. So some people like to keep the chips as souvenirs, for example, and then the casino just gets to keep the money. So just because someone goes in and buys chips doesn't mean the casino is always going to have to redeem those chips. An example would be on the slot machines. If you notice that the slot machines don't have coins anymore, they have the tickets that you put in. A lot of people don't wanna spend, like, 5 minutes or 10 minutes going to the cage to cash in a 5-cent ticket. So they'll just leave the ticket or they will throw the
Hmm.
ticket away. So the casino actually makes millions of dollars from unredeemed tickets.
I guess some people would have some weird superstitions when they're gambling, things that they do. What are some weird things you might have seen along those lines?
I had a guy playing on my table who had a superstition that if I colored him up to black chips, he would have bad luck all of a sudden. So he was winning, winning, winning. He took all of my green chips in my bank and I tried to color him up so that way I could get the green chips back and he absolutely refused and thought that I just insulted him and how dare I for asking to color him up. And my floor supervisor came by and he's like, "No, we are definitely coloring those up. I'm not doing a fill on the table for more green chips when you can easily color up." He got so mad that he just picked up all of the green chips and left and took all the green chips with him.
Okay.
Yeah. It's ridiculous stuff like that. People are very interesting. One guy, for luck, he brought his father's ashes with him and then put the ashes on top of the chips. Like, that was his good luck charm was his dad's ashes.
So like a pinch of
Like a dime bag?
ash, like a
It was a
so
dime
he kept
bag
it in the bag, so he would keep them in the
and
bag,
then put it on top of the chips.
the chips.
Yeah, and that was his good luck
Okay.
charm.
Tell us more about Vegas Aces.
So Vegas Aces is my website, vegas-aces.com, and then we also have a YouTube channel, and we teach people how to deal casino games for free. So it is the first online free dealing trade school. If anyone is interested, they can email me at heather@vegas-aces.com, and I will help them through the process of learning how to deal and gain a job as a casino dealer. I've actually worked with students where we FaceTime and I watch them, shuffle or cut chips, and then I give them pointers or tips or that type of a thing. So we have a lot of information on both our website and YouTube channel teaching people this, as well as teaching them how to invent casino games. And then our business helps pay for all of that. So that is our corporate quote unquote activism, where that is how we give back to the community.
You've had over 20 years of experience in the industry. Can you tell us, basically, thinking back of your time as a dealer and being in Vegas, what are some things that you feel has changed in the industry and dealing in Vegas itself?
So, one of the things that has changed is the use of technology. Casinos don't want your camera or your phone on the table. They don't want you taking pictures. They don't want you recording, that type of a thing. But people are so social media, frenzied that they have to take pictures of everything, they have to take video of everything. So you'll see a lot of people getting their cameras out and trying to take a photo of like their chips or their winnings or that type of a thing. And then we have to tell them, hey, you got to put your phone away. You can't have that on the table. And then they get upset and they're like, well, I don't understand why. This is ridiculous. I just want to take a picture. What they don't realize is there are some apps that you can have on your phone that help you, quote, cheat, unquote. And then if you use that on the table, if you use any electronical device on the table to help you cheat, that's actually a felony. And you could go to prison with that felony. So it's a very strict law that has come into place in the last, say, 10 to 15 years.
All right, Heather, Vegas Aces. I really appreciate you coming on. I knew this was going to be a great conversation, and I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else did. Again, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
And that was Heather Ferris, a professional Las Vegas dealer. That was fascinating. Loved it. Really great conversation. And if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe if you want, a little comment down below. Let me know what you think. Maybe watch another video. And if you have an interesting job and you'd like to be on the show, then email me, talesfromtheshiftpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get you on the show. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you later.